Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Stephanie Grinley. I am an investigative reporter here at CBS 13. I did a story last week on Lake Auburn's drinking water quality, and it was a two-part investigation. And today I wanted to put it on your radar, first of all, if you haven't seen it, but then second of all, I think the topic of drinking water is very important, especially here in Maine. We value our lakes very much. So I'm curious to know where you're watching from. So if you want to chime in, I just want to say hello, introduce myself. This is going to be a discussion today. I want to hear your perspective. I'm going to show you part of my story that I did on this to set the stage for you in case you haven't seen it. But then I'm going to actually take your comments and get a larger picture here of the opinions held specifically at Lake Auburn, and then also just looking throughout the whole state in terms of drinking water. So I'm originally from West Virginia, and the drinking water there, we drank from the Ohio River. So I would always filter the water when I would drink my water. I didn't necessarily trust it coming right out of the tap. So it leads to a big question. Do you know the source of your tap water? So if you chime in, where are you from? But then also, what is the source of your tap water? Because if you know, that is pretty good. And then on top of that, do you know the quality of it? So I'm going to play the start of my story that introduces all of this. We're going to look at Lake Auburn specifically, and then I'm going to open the platform up to you guys to talk about your opinions regarding drinking water here in Maine. So here is the story. I'm going to mute myself.
That's our drinking water.
Signs staked throughout neighborhoods in the city read, "Protect Lake Auburn."
The water quality.
The message trickling across the river to Lewiston resident Ruth Oakley.
I do not favor development around the lake at all.
Ruth is talking about proposed ordinance changes from the city of Auburn for development around the lake. To justify the proposal, the city commissioned a study which recommends updates to the septic system while quenching the demand for housing in 30% of the watershed.
I am confident that it's better than what we have.
Head of Planning and Permitting in Auburn, Eric Cousins, says his plan would limit development to one home per 3 acres, cutting the current projected number of new homes by half.
A lot's at stake as well.
It is.
A lot of drinking water.
Yep, for over 60,000 people between the two cities. What we've been doing over the past 20 or 30 years has left us in a situation where we have nuisance algae blooms. We've had to treat the lake once, and we're considering treating it again with alum.
Lake Auburn, a drinking water source since the 1800s, has held just as long a reputation as algae-free. Until this past decade, reoccurring blooms now plaguing the lake, a symptom of nutrients like phosphorus found in fertilizer leaching in.
We do samples here every day.
Here at the Auburn Water District, Chris Curtis is concerned about one thing, this number.
This is a turbidity analyzer. It's measuring turbidity from the intake.
Turbidity, or cloudiness of the water, is extremely low right now. Watershed manager Erica Kidd hopes it stays that way.
In late summer, we tend to see that creep up, sometimes maybe closer to a 2 NTU, sometimes a 3, and that is due to algae growth typically.
If that gauge consecutively hits 5 NTU, Auburn will be forced to install a $35 million water filtration plant. Up until this point, the EPA has not required this step for the lake. Unfiltered lake water has been sent straight to disinfection with UV light and chlorination.
If you have a filtration system, who's going to pay for it? The taxpayers?
In a letter written to the district, the Maine CDC's drinking water specialist warns Auburn's proposed septic system installations could jeopardize the lake's exemption from filtration.
I know that we can make it better than it would be if we don't do that. I don't know if that's good enough to prevent the loss of a waiver of filtration.
Once you ruin the water, there's no coming back.
The Auburn Planning Commission will hold a workshop in July on the watershed zone changes. It could then go before the City Council for a vote in the fall. Cousins is urging residents to take a second look. And coming up at 6, the I-Team finds Lake Auburn isn't the only one facing the possibility of filtration.
I want to show you right now, we have a Twitter poll going, looking at what your solution is to Lake Auburn's water quality. Let me read it to you. Calling Lake Auburn, Lewiston residents, are you concerned about your drinking water? If so, what is your solution for Lake Auburn? So you kind of heard some of the solutions presented from city leaders. The presentation essentially, they hope to limit development in a way by tapping into less of the septic system, also making upgrades to the septic system. This will go before the Planning Commission come July. Right now, actually, when we look at our poll, just a couple votes in, but rezone and update the septic system is leading the way. Some people still are saying just stop development in general. And some people, now this is kind of a topic that I've heard, is filter now, get a game plan in place now, because what I look into in part 2 of my investigation is that the water quality is not just deteriorating in Lake Auburn per se, but across the whole state. Some people are blaming climate change for that, saying that harder rainstorms are impacting our lakes in a way that the turbidity is rising. So with that, there's a lot of different discussions going on, specifically in Lake Auburn, because these filtration plants are not inexpensive. They're very expensive to put in place. But I have heard the argument, hey, maybe we should get one in place now, start raising the money for it now, before we're forced, when we lose this waiver, forced to buy it all of a sudden. So if you want to chime in, head to my Twitter. It's Stephanie at WGME. I'm just reloading to show you that this is where the poll currently stands. If you're passionate about this, I want to hear from you. I'll be doing an in-depth story on your reactions tonight. So also, if you are curious about part 2, I'll show you, let's see if I can show you another screen share here. Maybe not. But it is on part 2. You can go to WGME.com and my story, Lake Auburn is at a tipping point. Some fear protecting the filtration waiver as a lost clause. You can hear from other lake leaders in the state who are dealing with similar concerns with their drinking water. For now, I'm going to be reading the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say on this. Would love to hear your feedback. What are your solutions for Lake Auburn's deteriorating quality? And do you think Lake Auburn is alone? Are all Maine lakes in jeopardy? Would love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your water quality stands, where you're drinking. I know now in Portland, I drink my water from Sebago, which Sebago is such a huge lake. So it's less at risk for losing its filtration waiver because of how large the lake is and how strong the watershed surrounding the lake is in terms of filtering from the trees. Would love to, ooh, we got a comment maybe? So Joe says, my tap water is amazing. I actually live on top of a giant aquifer. Very cool. So you love your tap water. It's a thing that we should all be concerned about, I think. And for Joe, not very concerned, has great water. But the water quality, I mean, we all care about our water. I think I also want to stress that just because these lakes might lose a filtration waiver in like 50 years from now does not mean that their water is bad. The water is still pretty good. Let's see, water filter is someone else. Dave commenting, I have water, a well in Kennebunkport, Maine. So, and water filter in my tap water is great to drink and as good as bottled water. I would agree with you. Why not? If you get it right from your well, it's a great source. With these lakes, though, as I was saying, a lot of the problem that people are running into right now, you hear the filtration waiver going away. Potentially, I want to stress that, potentially going away. it doesn't mean the water is automatically dirty or bad to drink. It's just so pure that it was given this waiver in the first place. So a lot of water throughout the whole US is filtered. There's only about 50 lakes throughout the whole country that do not filter their water. They're not required to. So when we talk about this issue, I mean, Maine holds 20% of those filtration waivers. So it is a rarity here. Our drinking water is pure. And it's just a hot topic that I think if we dive into and just look at it, I want to hear from your perspectives, from the people drinking the water, if they're concerned at all. From Dave and from Joe, it sounds like you guys are set right now. Would love to hear more comments. Keep commenting in the discussions. I'm going to get off here, and then I'm going to just continue to read. If you want to chime in on the poll on Twitter, I would love to see those results, see if it's changing. Oh, already getting more votes. It looks like a lot of people are leaning towards filtering now. It's an interesting discussion. So I'm going to head out. Keep commenting. Would love to hear from you. For now, have a great rest of your day.